The Buffalo Bills are in a battle for the AFC East. How many wins is it going to take to win it? We've got trade talk and more coming your way today on Locked On Bills.
You are Locked On Bills, your daily Buffalo Bills podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Bills Mafia? It's Joe Marino, author of the Herd Mentality Substack, co-host of the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast, co-host of the NFL First Read Podcast, and I'm your host of Locked On Bills. Want to thank you for making Locked On Bills your first listen every day, and a big welcome and shout out to our everydayers. You know who you are. Those of you who never miss a single episode, I appreciate y'all being here very, very much. Locked On Bills is a proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Well, folks, welcome in. It's time for Herd Mentality, the weekly episode where you control our discussion. We got some good stuff to get into. We'll take a quick peek ahead at Chiefs week. We'll talk about some linebacker discussion, some trade ideas. But I want to start with this one from Matt about the AFC East divisional race. Matt says, with the Patriots' remaining schedule, how likely do you think it is the Bills can win the AFC East? How many more games do they need to win? Well, the Patriots are looking pretty good right now. They're 6-2. They've won 5 in a row. They've won 6 of 7. And their remaining schedule looks quite manageable. And when I consider the road ahead, there are 6 games that I think the Patriots are going to win. They have the Falcons, Jets, Giants, and Dolphins all at home. And then 2 road games, one at the Jets, one at the Bengals. I think they're probably going to win all 6 of them. Now, will they? You know, you got to go out and do it. You never know when hiccups can happen. But if they were to win those 6 games, again, home games against the Falcons, Jets, Giants, and Dolphins, road games against the Jets and Bengals, if they win those 6, well, that's 12 wins for the New England Patriots. Then they have 3 games that I would label more toss-up games. They have road games against the Buccaneers and Ravens, and then they host the Bills. I mean, there's a good chance they go 6-3 the rest of the way. And whether it's the 6 games I said they would win, they win, and the 3 games that are toss-ups, they lose all 3, or you kind of go back and forth. You know, maybe there's one game that they drop that, you know, they're supposed to win, or they win one of the toss-ups. You know, it could go either way, but I think there's a good chance they go 6-3 in their last 9 games, and they're 12-5. And so I think the Bills will have to win 12 games, including the one against New England, to win the AFC East again. Might take more. And so it's a real battle here. And I think there's something to be said for the Patriots and their glow up. Obviously, they got a great new head coach, and Drake May looks phenomenal, and Josh McDaniels, that offensive coordinator. That's all pretty significant, but they're taking advantage of being a team that is on a last place schedule. And so when you look at the 3 games that are different between the Bills and Patriots, take a look at this. The Bills play Kansas City. The Patriots played the Raiders. The Bills play Houston. The Patriots get the Titans. The Bills play the Eagles. And the Patriots get the Giants. That's the difference in a first and a last place schedule. And the Patriots are in a great spot to take advantage of that. And I'm not trying to take anything away from New England. I think they look really good, and I'm not going to pretend like they're not. I'm not going to pretend like Drake May doesn't look like an awesome player at 23 years old. It's right there. I'm not going to do this. They look great. But it's a major benefit to them that they get this last place schedule. Again, they're playing the Raiders while the Bills are playing the Chiefs. They're playing the Titans while the Bills are playing the Texans. They're playing the Giants while the Bills are playing the Eagles. Every other game's the same. Bills have to take care of their business, or else they're going to have to go on the road. for their playoff run. Matt says, I'm writing this on Tuesday, so the news has broken on Ed Oliver's injury. With the trade deadline looming, does the news of Ed's torn biceps shift focus away from targeting another receiver in favor of another investment at defensive tackle? It's fortunate timing to get Ogunjobi back when we are, but I'm wondering if you think that's enough. There's a lot of games left to play. Go Bills. Well, let's first of all acknowledge that it sucks that Ed Oliver's out indefinitely. The guy was having such a great year, and that was only in 2.5 games. But 3 sacks, 7 tackles for loss, 5 quarterback hits, forced fumble. He's unbelievable. And you consider how he finished last year, really from the Detroit game throughout the playoffs. He was phenomenal. This year, he's unbelievable. And, there's been some life changes for him. He's talked about becoming a father and how that's maybe helped him focus in and play his best ball. And now we don't know when we'll see him again. It sucks. And he was so good against Carolina. So good. He's great against the Ravens, obviously. He's a good football player. It's nice to have Ogunjobi, right? A 108-game starter. Here he is. But, Daquan Jones is still hurt. DJ Sanders is on injured reserve. We were going to potentially have the best group of defensive tackles under Sean McDermott yet, and we're not going to see them together for one game. It's frustrating. So right now, you have Ogunjobi and Deion Walker. And then Zion Logan, Jordan Phillips on the practice squad. Both players are out of practice squad elevation. So if they're going to play, they have to be signed to the active roster. You need to get Daquan Jones back this week. And you're probably going to have to sign Phillips or Logue to the active roster. And, TJ Sanders still has to miss 2 more games to fill out his term on IR, assuming he's healthy. He can come back after Miami if he's ready. And so he needs to get back and ramp it up. But to the root of the question about how the Oliver news impacts the idea of trading for a receiver, I'm interested in both. I'm mostly still interested in the receiver. But call up the Saints and say, yeah, we'll take Rashid Shaheed and Nathan Shepard, or do a separate deal, get Harrison Phillips, do something. You got to get some help here. I'm hopeful for a receiver, and I also would like a defensive tackle. Some work to be done here. Josh says the everybody eats mentality doesn't add up when it comes to using math probabilities to determine outcomes. Why? According to widely cited data, NFL teams on average throw to the quarterback's first read on about 67% of their pass attempts over the last 2 seasons. Therefore, investing into a quality receiver that is receiving a lot of first read attention would make mathematical sense. My question is this a sound argument, and can you poke holes in it? I have a lot of thoughts on the first read percentages and how to apply them. I think it means something different for every quarterback. A quarterback like Josh Allen is always going to be towards the bottom of the league in percentage of throws to the first read. It's just not the style of player he is. While other guys that are more by the book, right, run the offense, they're going to throw to the first read a lot more often. But here's what I want to say about the everybody eats mindset. And I think it's relevant to the point that Josh is making here. And pause, it's corny that the Chiefs are now embracing everybody gotta eat. We're just going to pretend like the Bills didn't start that last year and now you're just copying it. It's goofy. That's goofy. But ultimately, here's what it means. Don't be selfish. The best teams, the best offenses are the ones where everybody plays their part and doesn't care who gets the touches and does what's ever necessary to maximize plays. Football's the ultimate team game. And when you talk about skill players in the NFL, there can be some very selfish players out there that aren't willing to run the clear out routes, that aren't willing to block, that pitch a fit when they don't get their touches. That's all it means, is to kind of push back against that and for everyone to buy in that, hey, if you're not getting the ball, do your part. Run the clear out route with great effort. Block with great effort. Run every route like you're getting the ball. That's all it really is. If James Cook or Ty Johnson, they got to stay in the pass block from time to time. Tight end's got to stay in. Receivers got to block in the run. That's all it is. It doesn't mean that everybody has to be involved or that everyone has to get the same amount of touches. It just means don't be selfish. Play your part and help everybody else create offense by doing your particular job. I think that's really what it is. I think we get caught up in this idea that it's not good to have really good players because everybody's got to eat. No, I think it's more of a mindset than anything. It just means do your part, even if it means you don't get the ball. And don't be mad when other players on your team do good things because it wasn't you. I think that's really what it is. But it's really corny that the Chiefs are just embracing it and being vocal about it and acting like the Bills didn't start that last year. Okay. All right, we got more to do. We'll talk about this Brian Thomas Jr. guy. Is he really on the block? Should the Bills be after him? We'll break that down here next, folks. Be sure to stick with me. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride with more IIHS Top Safety Pick Plus awards than anyone else. From footwork to breathwork, athletes sweat all the details, and Mazda brings this same intention to how we craft every model. You can feel the craftsmanship in every detail, from the metallic accents to valuable Napa leather upholstery. You can make everyday drives feel like anything but, from smooth handling to intuitive controls. With all-wheel drive standard in every crossover SUV, you can drive with confidence through almost any season. Like our players, we sweat every detail because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. The NFL season is back, and honestly, there's nothing better than being in the stadium surrounded by fans cheering on your team. But let's be honest, getting tickets can be a hassle. Between queues, login screens, and prices jumping at checkout, it is frustrating. That's why I use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to fans. Game Time is fast, it's easy, and it's backed by the Game Time guarantee. You're always going to get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. Plus, all fees are included, so the price you see is the price you pay. The app makes everything simple, and I love that you can even see your exact seat view before you purchase your tickets. And honestly, it's this simple. It's faster, it's cheaper, and it's less stressful than any other way that I've ever purchased tickets. So download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. All right, folks. The next one today comes from Jason, who says, do you think there's any truth to the Brian Thomas Jr. rumors? Wide receivers get traded, but not ones that are 23, have his kind of rookie production, and are cost-controlled for 3.5 more years. If he's available, and not for any weird concerning reason that we don't all know about, I think he should be worth close to a Micah Parsons-level trade package. He's not a Parsons player, but to have that talent with so much time left on the rookie deal is huge. 2 firsts plus Keon? Who says no? I do. I say no to that in a heartbeat. All right, let's talk about this. Yes, I do think that there's truth to Brian Thomas Jr. being available for a number of reasons. It's not the general manager or the coaching staff that drafted him in Jacksonville. That's always significant, right? Anytime there's a new regime in place, GM and coaching staff, there's no real connection to the player. And like it or not, the NFL is all about ego, and you want your players to be the reasons for your success. It's just the way it always has been. And so, yeah, I believe it. And, well, have you watched him this year? The guy's got the yips. You know, there's a reason this conversation exists. He's had some really embarrassing competitive moments. He just has. And so I'll tell you this, I'm only interested in Brian Thomas Jr. on a discounted rate. That's me personally. You can have whatever thoughts you have, but this is how I see it. I thought there were red flags on the college tape. I liked Brian Thomas Jr., but I wasn't necessarily falling over myself during the draft. You probably remember the conversations we had. I thought he had a really appealing skill set. He's got size, athleticism, but ultimately you saw some issues with him when it was time to be physical. He'll cowered up. It's clear as day. It's on the tape. And so I'm not falling all over myself for Brian Thomas Jr. I'll take him on a discount with 2 1s. and Keon, boy, I hang up the phone quick. I would. Now, you get him on a discounted rate, that's fine. But, I mean, there's a reason this guy fell like he did. The Jaguars traded back and got him. So I think you got to get past the big eyes that he's young and had the big year that he had last season, because there's legitimate reasons why Jacksonville would even think about this. And I think there's some red flags based on some competitive moments that you'd expect a little bit more out of a guy. And that's concerning stuff. I'll tell you this, though. The Bills have Gabe Davis. They have Ryan Nielsen. Both of those guys were with Thomas last year. Mitch Morse, I think, would give you some good insight, who was with Jacksonville last year. I do my due diligence there. And if you like what you hear, then I think that informs your appetite here. But 2 1s? What? I would want him on a discounted rate. A second round pick, that could be a conditional one. Okay, we can talk about that. But I think it's really nuts to think about a Micah Parsons level trade package for Brian Thomas Jr. I'll think this is the best way I can say it. I can take it or leave it with Brian Thomas. If the Bills get him, I'll get excited about a young, explosive receiver that has production, that has promise. And if the Bills don't get him, I'll be quickly reminded of the reasons I didn't absolutely love him as a prospect, and the reason we're even talking about him as an option, because quite frankly, he shouldn't be considered an option. But there's a reason that he is, and I'm mindful of that. Yank fan says this: do you think there's a chance Bean views Gabe Davis as a partial solution to the passing game, and that lessens his interest to shell out draft capital for a player like Olave? So I've been getting a lot of questions about Gabe Davis. Here's the first thing we have to remember about Gabe Davis. He hasn't even practiced yet. He's on the practice squad injured reserve. He's still working back from whatever that knee deal was last year. So step one, how about you practice, and then we could talk about how you can help the team. And he hasn't gotten to that point yet. So 2 things. No, Gabe Davis should not preclude any trades whatsoever. But also, yeah, the Bills should be thinking about if there's a path for Gabe Davis to get on the field and help this offense. You guys know I'm not like Gabe Davis's biggest fan, but I'm not naive to the fact that he's been productive with Josh Allen in the postseason. He's made plays down the field. So I'm not going to overlook that based on some of the concerns that I have with this passing offense. So to recap, Gabe hasn't even practiced yet. He's on the practice squad injured reserve. No, Gabe Davis should not have an ounce of impact on any trade ideas that the Bills have. And yes, the Bills should be thinking about a path for Gabe Davis to get on the field and potentially help this offense. Danielle says, so many people are on injured reserve or going on injured reserve. Is there a limit to how many people can be on injured reserve, or how many people can come back from injured reserve? This is a good question and a timely question. So there's no limit on the amount of players you can put on injured reserve, but there is a limit on how many you can bring back. You can bring back 8 total players per year from injured reserve, and then 2 more in the playoffs. The Bills have 6 more opportunities during the regular season to bring a player back from injured reserve. They've used 1 on Maxwell Harrison, and they've used 1 already on Tylan Grable, although he hasn't been brought back yet. He was part of their initial place on injured reserve and designate for return. So he counts, Tylan Grable. So they have 6 left. And I think TJ Sanders will probably be one of them. Other candidates would be Taylor Rapp, Tyler Bass, DeMar Hamlin, Dorian Strong, maybe Ed Oliver. But I think that would probably be more of a postseason thing. So I think the Bills are in good shape here. They shouldn't be concerned about not being able to bring back the players they want from injured reserve. And I think there's a lot of uncertainty about these timelines. Rapp, Bass, Strong, Hamlin. Like, I have no idea if those are imminent returns in a couple weeks, next year. I have no idea. But I don't think the Bills are in a spot where we're concerned about that limit. But I think it's good for us to, have a reset here and make sure everyone's aware of the situation and how many more players they can bring back this year. All right, we got more to do. Good question about the linebackers and a little peek ahead to this matchup on Sunday against the Chiefs. So, folks, be sure to stick with me.
I'm Cody Rourke from Locked On Broncos, and this episode is brought to you by Peloton. Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with the brand new Peloton Cross-Training Tread Plus, powered by Peloton IQ. This is Peloton's most advanced equipment yet, giving you real-time guidance and endless ways to move, whether you're running, lifting, or you're cross-training with your favorite instructors like Alex Toussaint. It's training reimagined to make your workout more personal. Peloton is built for breakthroughs with features that help you plan, stay motivated, and hit peak performance. You can let yourself run, lift, flex, and go while Peloton handles all the rest. Plus, Peloton IQ provides real-time strength coaching, tracking your progress and suggesting weights that challenge you so you can get stronger. Plus, the new movement tracking camera, it counts your reps and corrects your form in real time, making sure every rep is safer and smarter. So let yourself run, lift, flex, push, and go. Explore the new Peloton Cross-Training Tread Plus at onepeloton.com.
I know what you're thinking. Cody Rourke sounds just like Adam Schefter. It's because he does. All right, let's keep this moving here. Mark says, do you believe Shaq Thompson and Dorian Williams should be the starters going forward? They're slightly bigger, shed blocks, and tackle better, and have played well together since the second half of the Falcons game, especially against two great running teams. I think the Bills should be willing to play matchups at linebacker. And I know that that's a tricky conversation because Terrel Bernard's the team captain and Matt Milano is Matt Milano. But I think you have an opportunity here based on injuries that don't seem to go away for Milano and Bernard, and a player in Dorian Williams that has some promise and, you know, could potentially be an answer for you next year, which would be the final year of his rookie deal. You have Shaq Thompson, who's been your best linebacker this year. I think that's widely accepted. And so I think you should be willing to play some matchups here. Matt Milano is a really good coverage player. He's your best processor. He's your most instinctive linebacker. Dorian Williams is probably your best short yardage blitzing linebacker that brings size and physicality that's unmatched by any of the group. Terrel Bernard's like a leader that is important for communication, that has made some really high impact plays in coverage, also has some blitzing ability. You know, you're playing three linebackers about 20-25% of your snaps, so you have room to play three, but I think you should be matchup specific. You should be situation specific. I don't think the Bills should be looking at their linebackers and thinking two of them are 100% of the snap players. Maybe there's one that you think is your best spy player that you want to use more against mobile quarterbacks. I think you got to think about this stuff. And I kind of like that unintentionally the Bills have been forced to consider mixing and matching personnel with their back seven, something they never really did prior to this year. But I think it's good. I think it's healthy. I know that you lose reps together and experience together, but you probably gain some better matchups and better options situationally. So I would definitely be open to the idea of tinkering and using guys situationally and not looking at two as the guys that play every snap. Josh says, seems like the Bills ran a lot of toss plays on Sunday. Usually tosses are designed to get your runner moving horizontally with speed to help him get to the edge quicker, but it seemed like the Bills were doing this on some plays designed to go inside too. What are the pros and cons to toss versus handoff? Were these inside designs just cutback opportunities for Cook, or were they truly more in the toss plus inside zone family? Also, any reason Josh would spin right to toss left or spin left to toss right on most of these plays? Let me first start by saying that I think the Bills' run schemes have been really good in terms of them being game plan specific. And every week, I think they've had the right idea with how they want to run the football. Now, we can debate frequency and situations and all that type of stuff, but I think they've had the right intent every week against the opponent based on what that front presents. And against Carolina, you had a young group of edge rushers that were lighter, and you kind of want to run at those guys. And meanwhile, they have those big tanks on the inside. Derek Brown, Ashawn Robinson, Tershawn Wharton, Bobby Brown. Like, you don't want to really run right at those guys. So you attack the smaller, inexperienced edge players, and simultaneously you get those big old monsters having to play more lateral than, right at them. So I think you had the right idea against Carolina. And then, they have very questionable linebackers. And so now you're stressing them to mirror and then fill windows. And I think it's a harder game for them to play like that. So I think they had the right ideas for sure. Now, the toss component, I think, really helped with the timing against Carolina. It forces a little bit of patience from James Cook. And I think James Cook has good vision. He's a good decision maker. But by having that toss element, I think it kind of, like I said, it forces him to have a little bit more rhythm and pace with how he attacked, as opposed to just getting it and going. I'm not trying to say that James is not a nuanced runner. Believe me, I think he's phenomenal. But I think that helps establish a little bit more rhythm and allows those blocks to take form. And then when he sees that hole, just go, baby. You see that green grass, go. And I thought he was masterful with how he ran the rock on Sunday. As far as the Josh spinning right to toss left or spin left to toss right, I think really what that is about is you get the defense potentially moving the wrong way if eyes are on Josh Allen, which they usually are. And so if you can get them to take a half a step or delay their pursuit to the correct side, I think that helps. So it's all about just giving yourself a half a tick to allow the blocks to form. And then, maybe you catch somebody with their eyes in the wrong spot and they're taking one step the wrong way, and it helps open something up. Justin says this: so I'm trying to add up all the different things that will equate to a Bills win against the Chiefs. Going into the season, I was okay with the Bills losing this game. Erasing the stigma of beating them in the regular season and losing in the playoffs isn't the worst thing in the world. But given the current state of the AFC and even closer to home in the division, this game just became much more important in my mind. One of the things that I think about when trying to find the path that will lead to a Bills win, it's the new look defense. It's obviously not ideal to be missing Oliver in this game, but there have been many new additions to this defense for various reasons. I'm just thinking about all the different formations, looks, combinations of players that haven't been seen yet on film. Obviously, Mahomes is Mahomes, but scheme does matter. How much, if any, difference do you see this all playing a factor? I'm hoping that we are at least slightly more capable of dealing with the speed that Kansas City presents. Yeah, I think we have a similar thought just generally on this game in terms of the meaning of it. It's been a frustrating situation to beat Kansas City during the regular season and at times by multiple scores, and then it not matter, whether you get them to play at your stadium in the postseason and can't win, or the success that you had in those games doesn't really translate to the postseason. But I do think that the newness of the defense helps, and maybe that's a little bit of a reason why you saw it really come together against Carolina, because you wanted to at least get a little bit of game experience together before this game against Kansas City. But I think the biggest thing is probably the two-man coverage, the cover two-man coverage that we played last week against Carolina, that just allowed the Bills to be a little bit better in coverage and more sticky. And, even if they didn't have great matchups all the time, at least they weren't spot dropping. And Mahomes is just going to kill you in that, right? He's just going to kill you if you're going to spot drop. We saw it. And even, last year in the playoffs, Sean McDermott said, look, we didn't want to have death by a million paper cuts. So they played some man, and they had some bad matchups. You had DeMar Hamlin covering Xavier Worthy. You had Kyer Elam going man-to-man against whoever. Didn't matter, right? He was getting cooked. But it gave you a better chance. And, the Bills are a little better equipped right now. I think Maxwell Harrison being available is big. You have a guy that can run with Worthy. And they also have Hollywood Brown, who's really explosive. So there's a lot of speed that you have to deal with against Kansas City. And I think being able to play two-man is going to matter a ton. And even Jordan Hancock Having some reps under his belt to come in and provide some athleticism, I think will be very helpful. I think the wet blanket that I would toss over this is that you're down potentially both your starting defensive tackles and your starting linebackers. Not great, right? It's a tough assignment. Like, we don't have to pretend like the Chiefs aren't rolling right now. They are. This offense is absolutely rolling. They've scored 28 points in 5 straight games. Actually, in 5 straight games, offensively, they scored at least 28 points, gained at least 24 first downs, and logged at least 350 yards of offense. They're number 1 this year in time of possession per drive, plays per drive. They have the lowest turnover rate in the NFL. They're 6th in third down. They're 5th in red zone touchdown percentage. They're rolling. Oh, by the way, defensively, they've allowed 24 total points in the last 3 games combined. Yeah, they're coming in hot. They really are. I guess they were, what were they, like 10-0 or something last year when the Bills played them? But everybody knew that there was a lot of goofy in some of those wins. This is a team that's legitimately playing great on both sides of the football. And look, it's a week-to-week league, so honestly, none of that matters. There's no transitive property. It doesn't matter that the Bills have had a couple of games where the passing offense kind of struggled. It doesn't matter that the Bills have had last week's rushing success. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that the Chiefs have had this type of success offensively. It's about what are you that day? And there's a piece of me that is hopeful that the Chiefs are the exact right opponent at the right time for this Bills team. But there's no denying it's an important game. The Bills are in a race for the division. And if they can't win the division, they're in a race for the playoffs. And you want as high of a seed as possible. Goes back to, like one game at a time, whether the Bills win or lose. If the Bills win the game, it doesn't mean they're going to win the division. It doesn't mean that they're going to be the number 1 seed. If the Bills lose the game, it doesn't mean that they're not making the playoffs and they're not win the division, right? There's a lot of season left to play, and it changes so quickly. So quickly. The Chiefs are 0-2. Right? I mean, the Chiefs are 0-2. Literally a few weeks ago, people were talking about Josh Allen as being unfair to football because he's so mentally sharp and knows what to do. And the Bills have broken the code of how to execute an offense. You just got to let it play out. That's why you can't ride the roller coaster. We don't have to live and die on every moment. They're going to play the games. And at the end of it, there's, criteria for who's going to be what seed. You see what happens, right? One at a time. Next up is the Chiefs. It's a big one. And we'll talk about it here the rest of the week. We'll have crossover Thursday next. My full primer on Friday. Final thoughts on Saturday. All the stuff here as we get ready for the latest Mahomes versus Allen matchup. All right, folks, that's going to do it for us here today on the podcast. Thanks for being here. As always, I kindly ask that you share, subscribe, rate, and review. Have a great rest of your day. Go Bills. And I look forward to catching up with you again real soon.